Hello everyone, welcome to Biology with MJ. This is MJ, your enthusiastic guide. So whether you are a NEET aspirant or simply a biology lover, this video is filled with valuable insights and knowledge. Okay, so stay tuned till the end of the video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss an update. Remember to like, comment and share this video with your friends. Okay, so let's get to the video. So hello everyone, in this video we are going to talk about the root part of the chapter Morphology of Flowering Plants. Okay, so there are various parts to a flowering plant. We know that a plant has a shoot system and a root system. These are the two broad categories in which we can classify the parts of any flowering plant. Okay, so the shoot system comprises of all the parts of the plant that are present above the ground, and the root part comprises of all the parts of the plant that are present below the ground. The root system comprises all those parts of the plants which are present below the ground. So this shoot system comprises of stem, fruits, inflorescence, which is made up of flowers, then leaves. So everything that you can see here that is present above the ground level represents the shoot system. And here the root system comprises of everything that is present below the ground level, which includes the primary root and these lateral roots. Okay, so the shoot system arises from the plumule part of the embryo, and the root system arises from the radical part of the embryo. Now, what are radicle and plumule? So, if you will open up a seed, you will find that now what is a seed made up of? A seed is made up of a seed coat, an embryo and cotyledons, right? So, whenever you will look at the embryo, it will comprise of two parts. First is plumule and the second is radicle. Now, plumule is the portion from where the shoot system will arise, and the radicle is that part of the embryo from which the root system will arise. Okay, so as you can see, if we put this seed into soil and then it will germinate, what will come first? First of all, the radicle will come. Okay, the radicle will come, which will give rise to the root system. After the radicle has shown some growth, after that the shoot system will develop. That is, the plumule will develop, and then plumule will grow, and then it will produce the stem and ultimately the shoot system. So seeds can be seen in both monocots and dicots, right? But because angiosperms or flowering plants can be divided into monocots and dicots. Now in monocots, what happens is a single cotyledon is present in the seed, and in dicots, two cotyledons are present, because in the names only suggest monocots means mono means one. So monocots have a seeds that comprises of a single cotyledon, and dicots have seeds that comprises of two cotyledons, because di means two. So this is a monocot seed. See, this is the embryo part of the seed. It comprises of the embryonic leaf, embryonic root. Then this is the dicot seed. It comprises here of the embryonic leaves, and this is the embryonic root. So embryonic leaf is basically the plumule part, and embryonic root is the radical part. Okay, and then this is the seed coat, which is covering the seed. The endosperm is present. Okay, sometimes in the seeds, in endospermic seeds, endosperm is present to provide nutrition to the developing embryo. All right, and then ultimately these are the two cotyledons. Here a single cotyledon is present. See, this is a single cotyledon that is present. Okay, now let us look at how the seeds germinate in monocots and dicots to get a better understanding of how the radicle and the plumule are giving rise to the root system and the shoot system. So as you can see, this is a monocot seed. Okay, see, first radicle starts coming and it gives rise to the root system. Then afterwards, this shoot system or the plumule part is growing in order to give rise to the shoot system. Similarly, in the dicots, we can see that in this animation, if you will just go back to a few seconds, you would have seen that
See, first of all, the roots are coming. That is, the radicle is growing, and then the plumule part is coming up in order to form the shoot system. Okay, so it is always like that. The radicle germinates first and gives rise to the root system. And after the radicle has shown some growth, afterwards plumule will come out of the seed and will give rise to the shoot system. So what is the function of roots? Why is the root system present in the plant? In this video, we are going to be talking about roots. So we need to first of all have a basic understanding of all the functions of roots. So roots, from elementary classes, we have been studying that the major function of roots is the absorption of water and minerals from the soil. Okay, plants, just like our bodies need water, plants also need water and minerals and nutrition to survive, right? So the absorption of water and minerals takes place via the roots from the soil. Okay, we water the plants. Why do we water? So that we water them in their soil region, right? We water the soil so that the roots will absorb water from the soil, and that is how the plants will get water and minerals from the soil. Now, roots also provide proper anchorage to the plant parts. What is anchorage? Anchorage is providing support to the plants to hold them in their position, because roots are the foundation. They will hold the plant in their position. If the roots are not present, the plant will fall down on either of the sides. So roots hold the plant in their position. Anchorage means providing them support, a foundation, a structure. Okay. Now, roots are also responsible for storing reserve food material. Roots also store reserve food materials. So when in some conditions where the plant falls short of the food or the nutrients, it can always extract those nutrients or food material from the root part. Roots are also regions of synthesis of plant growth regulators. Okay, certain plant growth regulators, certain phytohormones are synthesized in roots also. Now let's come to the roots of dicots. So in most dicots, the direct elongation of radicle leads to the formation of primary root. See, this is a dicot seed. Okay, the radicle, as I already told, comes first. The radicle will give rise to the primary root. See, direct elongation of radicle will give rise to the formation of primary roots. This radicle is ultimately forming the primary root. Okay, and this primary root will give rise to the lateral roots afterwards. What are the lateral roots? Lateral roots are the secondary roots and the tertiary roots. So the main root is the primary root. Okay, from primary root arises these secondary roots, and from secondary roots arises these further roots which are finer, even finer than the secondary roots, which are the tertiary roots. So the most thick is the primary root. Then comes the secondary root, which is finer than the primary root, and even finer than the secondary root is the tertiary root. So this represents the tap root system, in which a primary root is there and lateral roots are there. Both secondary root and tertiary root comprise of the lateral roots. And this taproot system is a characteristic feature of the dicotyledonous plants. Okay, and this was the process of how the root system forms in the dicots. Now, one of the most important examples that is also given in NCERT for this taproot system that is seen in dicots is of a mustard plant. So this image is also from NCERT. This is of a mustard plant. As you can see, it has a taproot system wherein a primary root is present and the secondary roots are present. So this is the root system. And this is a real life image of a mustard plant. You can see this is the taproot here. Several secondary roots are arising from the taproots and several tertiary roots are further arising from the secondary roots. Now let's come to the monocots. So in monocotyledonous plants, the primary root is short-lived. So here also the radicle, see this is the monocot seed. It is sown in the soil. The radicle will germinate. Okay. It will give rise to a primary root. But this primary root here is short-lived. It will not survive for very long. Okay. It is replaced after some time by a large number of roots which originate from the base of the stem. See, now this primary root will not be there. It is very short lived. It will wither away. And this primary root is then replaced by number of roots which are originating from this here, from the base of the stem. All these are roots which represent the fibrous root system. So all of these roots, they represent the fibrous root system. They are arising from the base of the stem. They are numerous in number. Okay, numerous fibrous roots are there. So this kind of root system is known as the fibrous root system. Okay, and it is a characteristic feature of the monocotyledonous plants. Now, one of the very important examples of the monocots is wheat. Okay, it is also given in NCERT, so please remember it. It is very important. Both of these examples, mustard and wheat, are important from Neet point of view. Please remember these examples. So wheat is a monocot plant and it has a fibrous root system. So as you can see in this image, number of roots are arising from the base of these stems of wheat plants. These represent the fibrous root system. As you can see, they are present in clusters, right? As we saw in this diagram. The primary root, evident primary root is not there because the primary root was short-lived. It has now been replaced by a number of other roots which arose from the base of the stem and gave the appearance of a cluster of roots that is present. It looks like a lot of roots are present in bundle in a cluster. So this is how it looks in a real life image view. Okay, so this is how a wheat plant root system looks like. Now till now we have seen roots which arose from the radicle. Okay, radicle gave rise to the taproot system, right? And in the fibrous root system, the radicle gave rise to the primary root, but the primary root was short-lived. So the radicles part was up till there only in the fibrous root system. After the primary root was, after it withered away or when it was replaced by other roots, those other roots arose from the base of the stem. Now that base of the stem is not the radical part of the plant, right? So all of those roots which arise from the parts of the plant other than the radicle, they are known as adventitious roots. Ideally, when we talk about the root system, we are talking about the root system in which the roots are arising from the radical part of the embryo. Okay, which are present, the root system which is present underground. But we have seen them. There are certain plants in which roots can be seen hanging from the trees, as in the banyan tree. Now, those roots do not arise from the radicle, they are arising from the stem. Okay, so those kinds of roots are adventitious roots because they are arising from the parts of the plant other than the radicle. And these parts are mostly the stem region, or they could be leaves also in some cases. Okay, so all of these roots are kept under the category of adventitious roots. Now you might think that in fibrous root system, the roots are present underground, and initially we saw that the primary root is also there, which is short-lived, but the primary root is arising from the radicle. Okay, but we know that the primary root is short-lived in the fibrous root system. So once it is replaced by the other roots, those other roots form the fibrous root system. And where are they arising from? They are arising from the base of the stem. Base of the stem is not radical. Okay, since fibrous root system ultimately is arising from the base of the stem, that root system is also adventitious in nature. So they can also be kept under the category of adventitious roots. Okay, so this example of adventitious root is from Monstera plant. Okay, we have seen Monstera plant growing commonly in our neighborhood, in areas nearby us. I'm sure everyone of has seen Monstera, a plant that looks like this, which has big wide leaves, and it's very beautiful. So in this plant, we see that there are certain roots that are arising from its stem region, which are present above the soil. Okay, like this, they are arising from the stem of the plant. Like this, see here, this root. There is a root system which is present underground, but there are these roots also which are arising from the upper parts of the plant, from the stem region. So this is an example of adventitious root, because these roots, they are not arising from the radicle, they are arising from the stem region of the plant. Okay, so one of the most important examples of adventitious roots is monstera. The other examples we are just studying now. See, in grass also, rhizome is present from where the adventitious roots arise. Now, rhizome is nothing but the modified underground stem. Okay, it is a modified underground stem which is known as a rhizome. Okay, and from rhizomes are arising certain roots, and these roots, since they are arising from the rhizome, and rhizome is ultimately what? A modified version of stem. These roots are known as adventitious roots, and these can be seen in grasses. In banyan trees, we have seen these hanging structures from the banyan tree. These are prop roots. Okay, these are also a type of adventitious roots. They provide support to the plants, support to the banyan tree by hanging. These are the aerial roots which are arising from the stem. These are also arising from the stem region, and they provide support to the plant, the banyan plant, additional support. Now, snake plant, if you have seen snake plant also, coleus plant also. Now, both of these plants can be propagated vegetatively also. Okay, vegetative propagation can take place in these plants. So, what do we need to do? We just need to take a cutting of the leaf in case of the snake plant, and if we put it in water, after some times we will see that these certain root-like roots appear from the base of the leaves. So, that is how they are being propagated vegetatively. So, these roots, since they are arising from the leaves, note here, from the leaves, they are also known as adventitious roots, and that is how these plants are propagated vegetatively. Now, in coleus, if we take a stem cutting, we put it in water, after some time we will see these roots arising from the base of the stem. Now, since they are arising from the base of the stem, they are also adventitious roots, and this is how coleus is propagated vegetatively. So, here we saw that the roots arose from the leaf, and here we saw that the roots arose from the stem. Okay, so both of these are also examples of adventitious roots. Now, if we look at the regions of a root, let's look at the structure of a root. So, at the tip of the root is present a root cap. Okay, it is a thimble-like structure. This root cap is protecting the apex of the root, the tip of the root, which is very tender. Okay, so it needs to be protected by something strong, which is known as the root cap. So, as the root is growing downwards in the soil, making its way through the soil, this root cap is what is protecting that tender apex of the root. Now, just above, a few millimeters above this root cap is present a region of meristematic activity. What is present here? Meristematic cells are present here. Meristematic cells divide rapidly. They are very thin-walled, small, and have a dense protoplasm, and they are dividing very rapidly. So, this region is known as the region of meristematic activity, which is present just a few millimeters above the root cap. Now, proximal to this region, that is above this region, is present the region of elongation. Now, the meristematic cells that have divided will rapidly enlarge and elongate in this region of elongation. So, this will give rise to the length of the root. The root will grow in length because of the expansion of these or elongation of these meristematic cells. Now, in the cells in this region, when they ultimately differentiate and mature into a final stage, it happens in this region. Okay, this region is known as the region of maturation. So, cells here were very young. They started growing and elongating in this region. Ultimately, they are maturing in the region of maturation. Okay, so this is how the cells are dividing. This is the epicenter, which is giving rise to cells. So, as the cells are coming out, these cells will elongate in this region, and ultimately, as they are being more put out, more the cells are being produced, these cells shift upwards and they are maturing ultimately into a differentiated state. Now, It is from this region, that is the region of maturation, that fine thread-like structures arise, which are known as root hairs. So root hairs arise from the region of maturation. And what is the purpose of root hairs? The absorption of water and minerals. The most important function of a root, absorption of water and minerals, takes place via root hairs. And root hairs, they are arising from the epidermal cells of the region of maturation. Okay, what are the epidermal cells? Which are the outermost cells that are covering the root. Okay, from the outermost layer of cells. From there, root hairs arise, which are fine thread-like structures responsible for the absorption of water and minerals. Okay, so this was all about the regions of root. And this is very important, that root hairs arise from the epidermal cells of the region of maturation. Okay, and a question has also come from this part, which we will see at the end of this video. So stay tuned till the end. Now let us look at the modifications of root. Now roots in some plants, they change their shape and structure and they become modified to perform functions other than the absorption and conduction of water and minerals. Okay, the traditional function is absorption and conduction of water and minerals. But in some plants, these roots, they change their shape and structure to perform some other function. They become modified and they become specialized to form some other function rather than absorption of water and minerals. So these root modifications we have put into three categories. We have identified three categories in which we can put these modifications in. Number one is support. So roots have modified themselves for support in some plants. In some plants, they have modified themselves for the storage of food. In some plants, they have modified themselves for respiration. Let us look at each of these one by one. So modifications of root for the storage of food. Let's look at this first. So tap roots of carrot, turnip here in this second image, carrot in this first image, and the adventitious roots of sweet potato get swollen and store food. So in carrot, turnip and sweet potato, we can see that the roots have modified themselves for the purpose of the storage of food. In carrot and turnip, the tap roots, the main root system only has modified itself for the storage of food. See, this is the fleshy tap root. This primary root has got swollen now, okay, to store food. And the secondary roots are arising from the surface. These thread-like structures which we see on the surface of carrot, those are nothing but the secondary roots. This is the image of turnip. In turnip also, the primary root has swollen to become swollen and store food. Okay, the primary root here has become swollen to store food, and certain lateral roots are arising, which are the secondary roots from the primary root. Now in the third image, sweet potato is being shown. Okay, and sweet potato has adventitious roots. Now the sweet potato that we consume are nothing but the adventitious root portion of the plant. So in sweet potato, adventitious roots are what are responsible for the formation of that sweet potato that we eat. Okay, and these adventitious roots, how do they form sweet potato? They become swollen like this into these structures, and these structures are called sweet potato, which we eat. Okay, so this is how the roots have modified themselves for the storage of food. In both of these, the main root system, the tap root system, has modified itself, the roots of the tap root system, but here adventitious roots have modified themselves. So these both are the modifications of tap root system, and this is the modification of the adventitious root system. See, in asparagus also, the roots have modified themselves and they have got swollen in order to store food. This is also modification of root for storage, an important example again. Now let us look at the modification of root for support. Now prop roots in banyan trees, which are nothing but the adventitious roots which arise from the aerial parts of the plant, that is from the stem they are arising. They are pillar-like structures which are growing from the stem towards the bottom of the plant. See, from the top to the base, these roots are present. These are like thick pillar-like structures. These are called the prop roots. They are present in banyan tree, and what is their purpose? To provide support to the plants, to provide anchorage, support, okay, help the banyan tree to stand, provides it balance. So these are the prop roots of banyan tree. Now see, stilt roots are also present. What are stilt roots? These are the roots which arise from the lower nodes of the stem. Okay, now we all know that leaves arise from the nodes. So this would be a node, okay, this would be a node, this would be a node, and in between is present a region which is known as the internode. So these nodes are present at regular intervals on the stem. So from the lower node, certain roots arise in some plants, and these roots are known as stilt roots. Their purpose is also providing support to the plant. Okay. So one of these examples is seen in maize of stilt roots, and the other example here you can see these are also stilt roots arising from the lower nodes of the stem in sugarcane plant. So maize and sugarcane are examples of stilt roots, are examples of plants which have modification of roots in the form of stilt roots. All right. And both of these are also adventitious root modifications because they are not arising from the radicle or the main root system of the plant. Now, let us look at modifications of root for respiration. Now, rhizophora, here the example that is being represented is pneumatophores in rhizophora. Now, rhizophora is nothing but a genus of mangrove trees. Okay, mangrove trees. Mangrove trees are those which grow in swampy areas, okay, very wet areas, which are salty areas. Okay, mangrove trees especially, they grow in areas of salty water, okay, where ocean water is present. The region is called swampy because obviously water is present, the region is very wet and soggy. So rhizophora is usually seen growing in such regions. Now in such regions, since the soil is always waterlogged, okay, the roots don't find the oxygen to breathe if they are submerged under the water. So these roots, after a point, they need to come outside to breathe because under water they do not find oxygen. Okay, there are no air spaces that are present between the soil in order for the roots to perform the gaseous exchange of taking the oxygen in. So how does this plant survive? So in these plants, the roots have modified themselves. They have taken the charge themselves, they have come out of the soil, they are growing upwards now. So these roots are the respiratory roots. See, these roots are growing upwards. They have come out of the soil. Now they are growing upwards because they just want to breathe. You know, when human beings, if we are in water and we are underwater swimming for too long, we need to come outside to breathe, right? So just like human beings, plants' roots also need oxygen to breathe. So they will come out of the soil, grow upwards because the soil is waterlogged here. The spaces which were occupied by air are now replaced by water. So the roots have come out, they are growing upward like this, and now they can get the sufficient oxygen to breathe, they can perform the gaseous exchange. So these roots are known as respiratory roots because they have modified themselves for respiration. And these roots are known as pneumatophores. These are present in Rhizophora, which is a genus of mangrove trees which are seen growing in swampy areas. Okay, and mangrove trees especially are seen growing in areas where ocean water is present, saline water is present. So mangrove trees are also known as halophytes, which can survive in saline conditions. Halophytes are organisms which can survive in the saline conditions. Now let's come to the Neet PYQs. This one is from Neet 2020. Question number 1 says here that the roots that originate from the base of the stem are primary roots, prop roots, lateral roots, or fibrous roots. So the roots, we just studied that the roots that originate from the base of the stem are fibrous roots. Okay. In the fibrous root system in monocots, the radicle gives rise to the primary root. The primary root is short-lived, which is soon replaced by fibrous roots, which arise from the base of the stem. So here what is mentioned in the question? The roots that originate from the base of the stem, they are fibrous roots. Not primary roots. Primary roots, they arise from the radicle, not from the base of the stem. Not prop roots, because prop roots arise from the aerial part of the stem. They do not arise from the base of the stem. Not lateral roots, because lateral roots, they arise from the primary root. Okay. So the correct answer is option number D, fibrous roots. This question is from Neet 2018. It is from pneumatophores. Pneumatophores occur in carnivorous plants, free-floating hydrophytes, halophytes, or submerged hydrophytes. So what is the correct answer here? We just studied that mangroves are seen growing in salty conditions, in salty water, in swampy areas. So mangroves are halophytes, and halophytes are organisms which can survive in saline or salty conditions. So the correct answer would be option number C. Pneumatophores are seen in Rhizophora, and Rhizophora is a genus of mangrove trees. Okay. So the correct answer is option number C. Option number A, B and D are incorrect. Sweet potato is a modified taproot, adventitious root, stem or rhizome. The correct answer is adventitious root. Sweet potato are modifications of root, modifications of adventitious roots, not tap roots, for the storage of food. In sweet potato, the adventitious roots get modified in order to store food. They become swollen in appearance, and that is the part of the plant that we are eating as sweet potato. So option number A, option number C and option number D are incorrect, and the correct answer is option number B, adventitious root. Now, this question is from Neet 2017. This question says that root hairs develop from the region of maturation, elongation, root cap or meristematic activity. Now, if we studied the structure of root and the regions that are present in a root. So, starting from the root cap above, at the tip of the root is present the root cap. Few millimeters above the root cap is present the region of meristematic activity. Proximal to that region is present the region of elongation, and proximal to the region of elongation is present the region of maturation. And it is from the region of maturation that the root hairs arise, and specifically from the epidermal cells of the region of maturation, these root hairs arise. So the correct answer is option number A. Root hairs develop from the region of maturation. Okay, not elongation, not root cap, not meristematic activity. So the correct answer is option number A. So that was all for today's video, students. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching this video. If you have any feedback and suggestions, or if you found something useful, do let me know in the comments below, and like this video, definitely share it with your friends and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.